Starting tomorrow, there will be no more homeless people allowed in Washington, D.C. The president just made this post on social media announcing his plans for tomorrow, saying, "We're having a news conference tomorrow in the White House. I'm going to make our capital safer and more beautiful than it ever was before. The homeless have to move out immediately. We will give you places to stay, but far from the Capitol. The criminals, you don't have to move out. We're going to put you in jail where you belong. It's all going to happen very fast, just like the border. We went from millions pouring in to zero in the last few months. This will be easier. Be prepared. There will be no Mr. Nice Guy. We want our capital back. Thank you for your attention to this matter." And it looks like he has already started deploying U.S. Secret Service and Customs and Border Protection officers. They were on patrol in a nightlife district last night in Washington, D.C. as part of President Trump's increased law enforcement crackdown on crime.
I'm so confused. Donald Trump told us that he didn't have the authority to deploy the National Guard during the January 6th insurrection. But now he has the authority to deploy the National Guard on D.C. There is no national emergency in D.C. D.C. is actually dealing with some of the lowest crime rates in the last decade, but yet he's deploying the National Guard because one of DOJ staff members were attacked. Donald Trump sending the National Guard into cities that are predominantly led by Black folks is not a coincidence. All of this is happening in broad daylight. They are telling us what they want to do. This is fascism. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. He wants to deploy nearly 1,000 National Guards to DC. The same amount that he deployed to Los Angeles, which is 3 times the size, if not more, than DC. And I used to live in DC. I was also on the Police Oversight Commission. And one of the real frustrations of being on the Police Oversight Commission is that there are so many police agencies that already exist within DC. DC is already over-policed. So if crime is continuing to happen, it goes to show that police are not the solution to reduce crime.
Donald Trump has announced the federal takeover of DC police and the mobilization of the National Guard. And I need you to understand this is a pretext to round up and disappear unhoused people. The Trump regime announced this takeover of Capitol Police, citing rising crime as a cause for concern, despite the fact that crime in DC is actually at a 30-year low. But when you look at his own words and the breakdown of duties assigned to the 800 National Guardsmen that he's bringing into DC, it becomes very clear this is entirely about targeting homeless people. According to the Trump admin, roughly 100 to 200 of the National Guardsmen will be assigned to some sort of police duty and won't be carrying any weapons, rifles, anything of the sort, despite the fact that this is allegedly because of violent crime, leaving 600 National Guardsmen for his second task, which is to beautify the city. On his Truth Social, Donald Trump said, "Before tents, squalor, filth, and crime, it was the most beautiful capital in the world, and it will soon be that way again." He is literally openly advocating to purge unhoused people from the city, and with no clear, transparent explanation for where all of these people will go. But fortunately or unfortunately for us, history seems to be repeating itself. So let me point out for you what happened to tens of thousands of unhoused people under another fascist regime. Did you know back in 1938 in Germany, over 10,000 people, homeless people, beggars, prostitutes, alcoholics, were rounded up as asocials and shipped off to concentration camps? Yes, one of the earliest victims of the Holocaust was unhoused people. They were rounded up and deported to concentration camps like Sachsenhausen and Dachau because they didn't fit the Yahtzee ideology of the people's community. The Trump regime is planning to round up unhoused people and ship them off to detainment centers, and they're hoping because they are undesirables that you won't notice.
Hello guys, and welcome back to Hosting Stories KE. And in this episode, things are not pretty for the homeless people in Washington DC, because Donald Trump has just deployed over 1,000 Metropolitan Police to swipe away the homeless people camping in DC, citing it as to reduce crime rates, of which we know in the past 2 years, Washington DC has been among the safest city with a decrease in crime rate up to 30%. Now, deploying all these police, the FBI, the DEA, is the black community is saying it's just another way of irritating them. It is just another way of Donald Trump urging to see what will these black people, let me do it so that I can see what this black community will say. Because as we all know, Washington DC primarily is led by the black leaders. It's led by black people primarily. So the black community, they are citing that it is not just another mission. It is a target for the black community. He wants to hear what we'll say, and here is just some of the comments from the black folks that I find interesting. So let's watch this video, let's engage in, and please watch this video to the end so that you can tell me your thoughts on this, and then at the end of this video I'll be giving my commentaries. Stay tuned.
I couldn't even watch that press conference today. Not that I watch their press conferences ever, but usually I can kind of like read people as they live tweet what's happening. Reading what they were saying about Washington DC, the lies they were saying, it made me so angry. There's been so many different things that have happened since January that have either directly impacted Black Americans, trying to attack our history, things like that, or have a huge disparate impact on Black Americans, firing federal workers for no doggone reason, and which has amounted to, as we see, 300,000 Black women out of the workforce over the last few months. So many things that have made me so mad, but that one just felt like so angry, because as many of us knew, especially Black Americans, when you come for Washington DC, the intention is to come for Black people. And thinking about how federalizing the DC Metro Police, bringing FBI to use in this kind of way, what impact that would have on the homeless population that's often Black, the Black teens in this city, so many different things. It made me so mad. Oh, I sit here, I'm like, this is what's happening year one. It only gets worse. It only gets worse. And I don't know what the solution is. I don't know. I know that when I make this video just sharing, I don't really have a solution or even anything context or history to share with it. I'm angry. I'm pissed. And I know people will say this is a trick. This is a trick from them, try to get us to the streets, us being Black Americans. And I always push back at that, because they don't care what your response is. They don't care if you take it laying down or in the streets. Their goal is to oppress Black people, to take away rights and control from Black people, to push us back generations. That's the goal. So your response does not matter. They're going to do it either way. Even just listen to the fights where people are trying to elicit this, fear out of Black Americans when it came to ICE. And I just felt like that was a fool's errand, because listen, one way or another, they are going to do things to Black Americans directly or indirectly, or it'll look neutral on its face, but in practice, it's about Black Americans. One way or another, they're going to do that. We don't have to build these big narratives about ICE or what have you. And I think this is a good example of that. A very good example of that. I don't really have much else to say about it, but incredibly frustrating. And I think it is just an indication of where we're going, where we're headed, and the different tools they are using. They spent the last 4 years pissed about losing, and the preparation they have to move. Last time he was in office, chicken was head cut off, chaos, everything. And he had better people in the roles to help support. He had better people that had more ethics, which I know sounds crazy, but they did. This go around, no ethics. But they spent time. There's a lot of people behind the scenes, lawyers that spent time helping them prepare for the takeover that would happen this go around. And that is what's happening. And people can say, oh, it's not, I think we should, isn't that big of a deal? It's 30 days or whatever. Okay. Well, you have a takeover that's clearly tied to your community, and we'll see what happens. See how you feel about that. Also, other big thing I'll just note too is that crime in Washington, D.C. is not up. It is at a 30-year low. So there's literally no justification for this at all, other than we just want to take over something. And it also makes me think about what happened January 6th, the role that the DC Metro PD played in that, and protecting the Capitol and all these different things and getting control of the city that day. It feels like retribution for that as well. And yeah, I just, it also makes me so mad too, thinking about how our community showed up to voted for not just ourselves, but for other people, and people didn't do that. And then we're the ones that end up carrying that burden a lot of times too. It infuriates me so much. I can't say enough, but, that's basically it. We'll continue to watch it. But I continue to pray for the people in the city that will be impacted by this, and just how scary it is that even if you don't have an interaction with the police directly or with these federal agents directly, how you're going to make different decisions about how you move in the city because of this. And that's not fair. That is so inherently un-American, or what they claim America to be, that we have particularly, I mean, it'll be everybody, but I'm for damn sure it'll be black folks in a city that used to be called Chocolate City, not feeling comfortable maneuvering around that city because of this. Makes me so angry.
I remember the days in DC where you would literally have to do on top of a cop car while you were sticking up your cooch in order for them to give a shit about arresting you or doing anything to you. And the fact that Agent Cheeto is literally got every police, like, for context, if you've ever been in DC, you know that it's like Capitol Police, Park Police, Secret Service, and MPD. Those are really the police that you see around, right? And it's really MPD that you really see pulling people over, because all those other cops don't give a shit about anything. And now they have ATF, DEA, FBI, all the fucking acronyms up and down DC. When I was driving to work this morning, it literally looked like we were in the last times. Like, they were preparing for Armageddon stateside. I've never seen that many cops before, and to me, it's just kind of like, I grew up in this area. I'm a DMV native. I remember back in like the 90s, early 2000s, where cops would like not show up to certain parts of DC. You could get your car broken into right by the monuments and they'd be like, tough luck. Sorry, we can't help you. And so it's like very interesting that DC, which is very safe now, probably safer than a lot of places in this country, is all of a sudden this lawless place. And we all know why he's doing that. But my advice to anybody that is in this area and frequents DC often, don't fuck around. Now's not the time to fuck around. It was very different in his first term when he had the MAGA hat people out in the district and we were running them rampant. But now that he got the big boys up in the city, please mind your business. Don't jaywalk. Don't smoke in public. Don't do none of that stupid shit, because now they're finding any excuse to go and imprison and detain like black and brown people in the district, because he knows that that's the only place where he can actually do something. And few Muriel Bowser.
You know, Benjamin Franklin once said that those who give up essential liberty to purchase just a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And that quote used to get brought up so much by conservative Americans whenever someone threatened their right to gun ownership. But now it seems like most conservative Americans no longer care for that quote. It seems like that concept, the concept that giving up liberty for temporary safety is an un-American idea. That concept is no longer in the doctrine of conservative ideology in America, especially when they want someone outside of their conservative circle to give up their liberties. And what exactly is that word, liberty? It's a very loaded term that's been co-opted by a lot of groups who represent the very opposite of its definition. But liberty essentially means freedom from excessive oppressive restrictions. And I can think of nothing more oppressive or more excessive than what Donald Trump is attempting to do in Washington, D.C. today. Deploying the National Guard against a U.S. city when there's really been no elevated levels of civil unrest there that would warrant such a decision. I mean, there's been no major mass shooting there. At least not one that would be comparable to the worst mass shooting we've ever had in our history, which took place in Las Vegas back in 2017 during Trump's first term. He didn't deploy the National Guard after that event. He didn't deploy the National Guard to El Paso, Texas in 2019, when a young white man gunned down dozens of Latino individuals in a Walmart because he felt like we were under some type of invasion, probably spurred by Donald Trump's own words. In fact, on January 6, 2021, When Donald Trump's own supporters were storming the U.S. Capitol building because Trump lost the 2020 election, Donald Trump said he didn't have the authority to deploy the National Guard in that situation. But now he's deploying the National Guard in Washington, D.C. because what? Because if you're saying to yourself, well, Washington, D.C. just has such a high crime rate and he's doing this to fight crime. Yeah, the data doesn't suggest the crime rate there is any higher than average. Let's take a look at the data. According to crime figures published by Washington, D.C.'s Metropolitan Police, violent offenses fell after peaking in 2023 and in 2024 hit their lowest level in 30 years. They are continuing to fall according to preliminary data for 2025. Violent crime is down 26% this year compared to the same point in 2024, and robbery is down 28%. While MPDC public data showed a 35% fall for 2024, FBI data showed a 9% drop. So even though the figures are differing, both agencies agree that crime has been steadily falling and declining in Washington, D.C. The homicide rate dropped in 2024 and this year is down 12% on the same point as last year. According to a recent Newsweek article, these are the top 21 cities in the United States with the highest crime rates. Where on the list do you see Washington, D.C.? It's not on there. We need to start looking at this for what it really is. Okay? This is about a wannabe dictator seeking revenge against cities that did not vote for him. Period. A man who is a convicted felon, who is still under investigation for all sorts of additional crimes, and was 100% involved with one of the most notorious sex traffickers of all time in Jeffrey Epstein, does not give a shit about law and order. This is a distraction from the Epstein list, and this is about revenge against the populations who did not vote for him, particularly majority minority cities. And if you're thinking, well, I don't live in these big cities, so this doesn't apply to me. They already came for Latino populations, legal or otherwise. They already came for legal immigrants on college campuses. They're trying to overturn gay marriage. They came for the scientists. Now they're coming for big U.S. cities. How long do you think before they come for you? And what is it going to take for you to realize that no one is safe from this type of tyranny?
Well, now, hear this. On August 10, that was the other day, yesterday, Trump posted on Truth Social saying the homeless have to move out immediately. We'll give you a place to stay, but far from the capital. He also has assessed his goals to make the city safer and more beautiful, promising tough enforcement. He said, there will be no more nice guys. This is to say, no room to play. There will be no more nice guy. He also said, we want our capital back. Now, his rationale included portraying DC as a chaotic and crime-ridden, justifying both removal of homelessness and an increase in federal law enforcement. Despite the official crime data showing a notable drop in violent crime this year, I mean a notable drop, we say a decrease in crime rate within 30%. And yet he's saying it is citing it as an increase in crime rate. And we know it is among the safest city right now because the crime rate has already dropped to 30%. Now, this also aligns with the broader executive push earlier, framed as the DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force, established in March to coordinate federal agencies in enforcing quality of life laws, cleaning homeless camps and federal land, and boosting pretrial detention policies. Now, Trump invoked Section 740 of the DC Home Rule Act, which allows limited federal control over the city's Metropolitan Police Department in emergencies for up to 30 days, subject to congressional approval. Now, on August 11, he went ahead and federalized the DC police and deployed over 800 National Guard troops, placing oversight under the Attorney General Pam Bondi. A full takeover of DC's government would require Congregational Act to override the Home Rule Act, but that hasn't happened yet. So, what are critics saying, by the way? The critics, Mayor Morel Bosa, and other local leaders strongly push back, stressing that violent crime has been falling, not rising, and that DC need coordinated solution, not sweeping sweeps. Homeless advocacy group condemned the policy as inhuman and civil right violation, arguing it is a risk of pushing people further into crisis, especially as support service and due process are sidelined. To summarize this, Trump demands appears driven by desire to transform the city's appearance and narrative of safety by cleaning public spaces, expanding federal policing, and dismissing local governments. Legally, he's leveraging emergency provision but not yet fully dismantling DC's local autonomy. Critics argue that the move are politically motivated, legally questionable, and socially harmful. That's what I had for you today. So, in my own view, I think this issue is an issue of a state emergency, because deploying all those 1,000 or 800 troops, it's like a mini national emergency. It's like a mini martial law. And you criminalizing homelessness, it is just an inhuman act, because according to the status quo, we cannot be the same. There must be some rich people, there must be poor people, there must be those who have their homes, and there must be the homelessness. It is just a matter of nature, coexistence. So criminalizing, this is just criminalizing the homelessness, by the way, because you saying will give you a place to stay but far away from the capital, and then you go down there and say that, and for the criminals, don't run away, we will come for you, and we have a very safe place for you, we'll lock you there. So where do you want these homeless people to go? I mean, even if it is making the capital beautiful, I think that is so inhuman. You do tell me what you think in the comment section. Let's engage in this discussion, and I hope to see you in the next video. Subscribe and adios.